Connecticut, Dave Gravel.
What's going on, guys? David Gravel here. Exciting show tonight. We got Doug Coby, Bobby Santos, Erin Crocker, and Ryan Preece. If you're from the Northeast area, you know those are the big hitters that have come out of the New England states. All very, very decorated careers. Everybody has accomplished a lot. Everybody kind of has a different story to talk about. So very excited to talk about those things. And I think we have a lot of cool topics to talk about. Also, we have a new sponsor, Lake Home Retreats out of Wisconsin. They do like Airbnbs and 2 lakes up in Wisconsin. If you're close to the Milwaukee area or Chicago and you want to get away summer or the wintertime, check out Lake Home Retreats. If you use that checkout DG20, you get 20% off your stay with them. That code will be set up tomorrow, and the link is in the bio. And also we got Marlowes Metal Fabrication. Thank you to them. If you need anything in Dover, Pennsylvania, or the surrounding areas, hit up Marlowes Metal Fabrication. And Moose's LZ Bar and Grill, awesome bar and grill in the Lebanon, Mechanicsburg area. Great food, great people. Check them out. So yeah, we're gonna get these 5 people in, and we'll get right to it. And yeah, I'm really excited. What's going on, guys?
We're here.
We're here. We got Bobby Santos, Ryan Preece, Erin Evernham, Doug Coby. So what we all have in common, we all came from the Silver City Quarter Midget Club in Meriden, Connecticut. Was that everybody's home track, or was Thompson for some of you guys?
I was probably Thompson. Started Thompson and kind of migrated to Silver City at the same time.
How about you, Erin?
Meriden, Silver City was the home track. We went to
so pretty much
places, yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So pretty much all of us. Obviously, Doug, Erin, and Bobby are closer in age. Me, Ryan, and say Joey were a little bit closer in age, but I didn't race with Joey. I raced very little with Ryan, but I know you 3 raced for a long time together. Obviously, our upbringing in quarter midget racing was awesome. We had a lot of fun, and I know I wouldn't trade it for anything. Definitely the early years in racing got you to love it, right? We went to NASCAR races as kids and then raced quarter midgets when we could, and it was a blast. Anybody got any 2 cents?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just more about, like you said, the overlap, right? I mean, this has been going on since the dawn of time at Silver City, where there's drivers that race, you know, against each other. Erin and I are really close to the same age, so we grew up racing together. But then Bobby was the younger kid who came in while we were getting older and raced against us. And then there's always that like 2 or 3 year overlap, and that's how we're all connected to each other. When you think about who was dominant when you were a little kid at the track, and then when you became dominant or were the older kid, I mean, that's the coolest story that I see about Silver City, is that's how we're all linked together, is just who we all know. It's a crazy, huge extended family.
I'm guessing, Ryan, is Matt your brother, like the same age as Bobby, or like same age as Joey, or?
No, yeah. So I don't think my older brother Matt ever raced against Doug or Bobby. He was more of the Ashley Bates, Davey and Danny Salmons era.
Yep.
Which I don't believe any of you guys raced them. So it was, I think you and I, David, were I don't know what year Doug and Bobby and Erin stopped racing, but I know my first year was in 1998. So I think that was a little bit after.
Mine was 99.
Yeah.
We're in trouble here.
Yeah. We're the elderly folk.
I guess I was the in between everybody, because I ended in 98 and I started, obviously. Doug was probably the first guy that I really looked up to in the quarter midgets. He was kind of the guy to beat, and he was kind of the guy that I modeled after and try to race like. And then my favorite part of Silver City was probably getting beat up in the infield by Erin when we played soccer and football.
You're bringing out the stories this early. I mean,
Man, you used to
part.
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me blush a little bit.
Hey, you're a tomboy. Is that when did you have the rec specs on at that point too?
No, the rec specs came later. I don't think I knew I was blind. Maybe that's why I was hitting everyone on the racetrack then. But I had the aggressiveness, and yeah, we played soccer in the infield after the races all the time, and yeah, I was a little bit of a tomboy.
Well, that turned into football for me. I never played soccer in the infield. We played football, and then it got real sketchy when you started to get on the pavements. People were tackling. That's when people got hurt.
Well, we played soccer that turned into kill the man with the ball.
Yes.
And Bobby was always the one who didn't care how many kids. Bobby was about half the size of everybody and always wore like an XL t-shirt. He was like 7 or 8 years old and would like literally get swung around in circles because he wanted the ball and he was getting it no matter who was there. So that was always fun.
Well, from what I see,
someone I have right now, my kid.
I know Bobby's a mentally strong guy because I seen him at IRP the last couple years, and I know how intense he is. So I'm sure he was the same as a young kid as well.
Yeah, we built that into him. So
Yeah. Doug and I get credit for that.
Yeah. You always got to have those older people that bullied you a little bit, or you're always trying to beat them. I mean, that's part of the fun. Well, I guess we could start talking about, what career paths we took after quarter midget racing. I feel like everybody's story is a little bit different, and it's obviously hard for 5 people to talk at once. So we'll take turns on how everybody progressed. It could be a short summary. You don't have to get too far into things, but I don't really know Doug and Erin's full-blown career on where you guys exactly went. I know, Doug, you did a lot of modified racing and won a lot of championships and stuff. So I guess whoever's the oldest, I won't say who it is, but the oldest goes first.
That's
Doug's
me.
the oldest. Let's get that out there.
I am the oldest for sure. Yeah, I mean, my quarter midgets started in the mid to late 80s and ended in 95. And, back when you stopped racing in that era, there really weren't as many options as there are right now. So, we didn't have bandoleros, and Legends cars were kind of just getting started, and there wasn't the following or the summer shootout and all that stuff. And you really didn't leave quarter midgets until you were 16 and you graduated. I mean, you had to get your driver's license, and then you went off and did other things. And, people didn't, move around the country because they could race in Pennsylvania early, like Ryan, you did, and other stuff. We just didn't do that. It just wasn't how racing was back in that era. So my dad had race modifieds at Riverside Park in Massachusetts and Stafford back in the 70s. And that's actually how we got involved in quarter midgets to begin with. Was we kind of were a racing family. He didn't win any races or anything. He wasn't well known, but he still did it. And after quarter midgets, I mean, I wanted a Legends car because I just thought they were cool looking, and that's the path I wanted to go. And my dad said, listen, if you're going to keep racing and you want to keep doing this, you're going to race at Stafford, and that's where you're going. And I was like, okay. I had never even been to Stafford because we were racing. You run quarter midgets. You don't have time to go to other races, right? During race season, you're racing Friday and Saturday at Silver City and Thompson and traveling around. And, we didn't have a lot of time to go watch local racing, but we started going to Stafford, and I started there in a late model in 96. So I was a full fender guy to start, and, kind of was going to go down that path. I mean, that was the plan for me all along, was go Stafford late models, keep moving up into Busch North at the time. And then that just never happened.
Erin?
I'm up. All right, so I started in quarter midgets in 88. Feels a little rough to say. And I think
I wasn't born, but I it's okay.
Gosh, that's wrong. About 97 was my last year, I think. So my brother had already moved on from quarter midgets and was racing mini sprints. I think at Monadnock, maybe? No. There used to be a racetrack. High Groove. I don't know. It was High Groove or something. It was
High Groove. I raced there.
Yeah.
It was right.
I kind of followed in that footsteps. I ran Whip City for a year in 98, and then my dad passed away, which was obviously tough. I was 17 years old, and wasn't sure what the path was. So there was a little window where I didn't race much. I think my brother still had a 1200 mini sprint that I ran a little bit in central New York. So yeah, there was a little window where I didn't race much. I went to college, went to RPI for engineering, and just still loved the sport. So I would go out to the sprint car races, and got an opportunity to drive for a guy in Connecticut for the first time, and kind of snowballed from there. So I went the sprint car route. I ran 360 sprints, ran the Eastern Limited sprints in New York first, and then I ran ESS in 2002, and had some success. And that's when things started to take off. Ran a little Silver Crown, ran a 410. In 2003 is when I qualified for Knoxville, and 2004 is when I won my World of Outlaw race. So kind of went that route, and then obviously got the opportunity to come down to North Carolina and try my hand at stock cars for a little bit, and then happened to marry my car owner, which wasn't exactly ideal for a woman in sports, but bygones be bygones. All worked out for the best. We have a family. We've been together for a long time. But yeah, I took the sprint car route to the pavement route. It was kind of a roundabout way.
Yeah, like how did the sprint car thing work out with, if you're around same age as Doug? I mean, there's even probably less sprint car racing back then than there is now. Like, did Mike Woodring, you get hooked up with Mike Woodring at an early age, and is he the one that kind of brought you to go and travel? Like, because who are you even chasing? Like, who are you trying to be like from the Northeast? There wasn't really another person that did that at that time.
Well, actually, at Whip City, the Wood family, I don't know if you remember them. They were from the Suffield, Connecticut area. They had Richie Wood. He won a lot of races in the 250cc mini sprints at Whip City. Yep. His dad had a sprint car, and they would run the Eastern Limited sprints. And I used to go and hang out at their house and their shop. And one time he gave me the opportunity. He was like, "Hey, I want to come up to Utica, Rome, and try this 360 sprint car." And it went really well. We did well and ran a limited season with them. And then that's how I met Mike Woodring. And he was like, that whole opportunity was crazy. He was like, "I'm happy to put out a second car, but we need to come up with some sponsorship money." And I was like, all right. So I was a sophomore in college and started sending out these crazy proposals. And of course you hear back from 99% of them that say, or you don't hear back from 99%. And then, it's actually one of my professors at school said, "Hey, have you ever thought about asking the university to sponsor you?" And I was like, no. So I went to the dean of admissions at RPI and put out this proposal. And I think they loved that it was a woman in a male dominated sport. And at the time, engineering was there was only 25% women at that college. So they agreed to sponsor me. And that's when everything kind of came together for the 2002. And I got to run the full ESS schedule, which to me was like a huge break in my career. Looking back, you after you run the World of Outlaws, that seems like a small step, but it was actually a really huge step in my career.
Yeah, that's cool. It's interesting. And I mean, a random girl from the Northeast was a World of Outlaw winner. Obviously the only girl ever, but it's about as random as me choosing the World of Outlaws as well.
Yeah, but you know what this says, though? It says that the Northeast needs Whip City Speedway back, because that's where you guys started to go down that path of World of Outlaws and dirt racing.
Speaking of Whip City, I don't know when Ryan had time to race dirt on a go-kart in Whip City. Like, when the hell did you do that?
I also ran a 270 for a brief period at Whip City. I think it was 2 or 3 times. I ran Path Valley, Greenwood Valley. But that was back. So my older brother, Matt, which you guys know, or David, and Bobby, and so does Doug. But Aaron, I have an older brother. I have a couple older brothers. But so he was actually older than me, and he started racing 600 micros on dirt. He won 5 or 6 races that year at Whip City that I ran that go-kart. So I was just kind of dragged along at that point. And, but yeah, that was how I ended up at Whip City. It wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to play in the dirt.
Really? Yeah. I mean, Matt was a good driver. I think he probably had just as much a decorated career in quarter midgets as you did. I think
I'm going to chime in here because Johnny would say that Matt is the better driver. So we'll just get that out there right there.
Yeah. Well, that's Johnny's opinion. Matt wanted to go and have fun. So I ended up keep doing right.
You could say equally talented, right? Some people are driven to take this as a life, and some people aren't. It's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, so what's your deal? You're a USAC guy, but only pavement, and you obviously won a wheel and modified tour championship. So did you dabble in some dirt earlier on, and how'd your
Um, well, my Whip City career was one race deal. um, Paul Bennett, actually, another quarter midget family, Chase, Brooks, Ashley. At the time, they were doing it, and he let me try their car at one point when I was already out of quarter, which I'm not sure when it was, but I don't think I was that good at it, and that was a one-time deal. That didn't last very long. But I started in quarter midgets in '90, did it to '98, so I'm kind of saw Ryan's beginning and the end of Doug and Erin doing it. But quarter midgets was definitely the best time that I ever had in racing. It was awesome. But got out of quarter midgets at 13, and kind of similar to what Doug said, really didn't have many options from there. So my dad kind of called around and looked at different tracks. So we didn't have much of a choice but to go to New Hampshire to race, and started in a 350 Super at Star Speedway. We kind of just enjoyed the open wheel path, enjoyed the open wheel cars. Being from a modified family, my grandfather racing them, I kind of always expected to race modifieds and go that path. And we kind of did initially. We got our own modified and did New Smyrna, some stuff like that. But got hooked up with the Seymour family, which is obviously from Boston.
Chili Bowl prelim night winner.
Yeah, they put 2 cars in the A main, which is pretty awesome this year. Really awesome. But yeah, got hooked up with those guys racing their midgets in the Northeast, and learned a little bit about what their family did and dad did back in the day, and kind of opened my eyes up to the USAC world, and started traveling the Midwest and racing sprint midget crown cars on pavement really all over the country. And while doing that, got a couple opportunities to come home and race the modifieds, which, obviously I love doing, and had a couple of my probably career moments, and winning the championship at Bob Garbarino, and, winning some races with the Tineo team. So I've been lucky to kind of still race in New England at home, but, enjoyed open wheel racing in the Midwest.
Yeah, that's cool. So when you traveled the USAC deal, was that with your family? Because when I was a small kid, I remember watching Erica and you race at like all the special events at Stafford or Thompson, when like Ken Schrader would come and stuff like that. So were you able to? Was that all on your guys' family team?
I started out obviously with my dad, but I ran the Seymour Silver Crown car, and then as time progressed, I got rides with some different teams. My probably first couple real breaks, I drove for Rick Gearhart and Western Speed out of California, and then after that, I get to drive for Bob East, which is a break for any young driver. He brought through obviously a lot of the greats. So just the opportunity to drive for Bob and win races with Bob really, I think it sped up my learning curve and really helped me find success in that form of racing.
So were they backed by Ford? Was that the 9 cars, or was that after when it was like kind of Beast and a little bit of Ford branding at that time?
So that was right when the split happened. Steve went Toyota and hired Dave Steele.
Yep.
And I remember it's kind of funny that it was 2000 going into 2006. And I remember my dad always worked really hard for me. And I remember he just wasn't shy about picking up the phone and calling people. And I remember he called Steve. And I remember Steve, I don't, obviously is my dad, but I remember the conversation basically went, we hired Dave Steele, which was the best at the time, but maybe we'll consider putting your kid in our Young Lions program one of these days. And my dad ended up calling Bob East when they split with Ford and Toyota, and Bob needed a driver when they split, and I ended up going and driving for Bob that year. We ended up getting the best of Dave a good handful of times that year, so it was pretty satisfying.
That's cool. Was there the Carl Edwards deal going on at that point? Like, do you remember Cameron Dotson like drove a little bit in that deal? Did that exist with Ford or no?
That was right in the same era and more so right after. That was probably I actually ran in the 06. I ran for Carl at Lakeland and won his first ever Silver Crown race, which was kind of cool.
Okay.
And that was and I think that's when his program kind of really started. So that went into like 07, 08. After that is when that kind of took off with Cameron, and that deal with Chris Santucci kind of got rolling.
Yeah, Chris Santucci is a good guy. I know he's a mechanic for Sammy Swindell back in the day. I mean,
Yeah.
you know that dude's from the South, the way they talk over there, and he's just a good guy. And I remember I always looked up to, oh man, driving Carl Edwards' USAC team. I mean, that was like super prestigious, and having smoke rolling off the right rear on that pavement sprint car was pretty badass. Like in pictures on MySpace back in the day, it was definitely cool. Well, Ryan, you're up, buddy.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny. Bobby's sitting here and telling some of these stories. I was the younger kid that always looked up to Bobby as far as a local racer. There was times where my father and I, when we were traveling a lot, during that awkward age that we talk of, where you guys talk of, you didn't get out of quarter midgets until you were 16. That age started at 11 or 12 for me. I raced quarter midgets from, I believe I was seven years old till I was about 11. And then because I had an older brother and I kind of had to follow him around at the time, I just started moving through those steps, which started as a go-kart and then quickly moved into 600 asphalt micro and a 270 micro on dirt. And by the age of 14, I was in a full-blown modified. But Bobby's talking about some of these midgets and Silver Crowns. I remember being, 12 years old, watching him go to the outside of guys at Thompson or IRP, and just I'll never forget when he won that $100,000 race. I believe it was $100,000 bonus or was it 50?
50 at Stafford.
Yeah. So, but going back to that, Bobby was talking about how he looked up to Doug when he first got into quarter midgets. Well, I looked up to Bobby, so it's kind of like a full circle, and then racing against Bobby in the modifieds and Doug as well. But yeah, so it was. I've kind of been all over the place, and growing up in the Northeast, it's challenging because mainly if you're from the Connecticut area, Doug was talking about going Bush East racing or Bush North racing.
Bush North.
Yeah, I know, Bush North. Bobby went sprint car, USAC pavement racing. I aspired. I wanted to race USAC midgets, Silver Crown, sprint cars. Like, that's something I've always wanted to do. I really love that style of racing. But just being from Connecticut and kind of how available racing around there is, it's just the path I went down. So, I did race a Kenya midget out at the Indianapolis Speedrome, which I won. So I was pumped about that. And raced some indoor racing with 600 micros. But 14 years old was my first time in a modified at New Smyrna Speedway. So it was just you're getting thrown into this. And my father and I was lucky. It was kind of during those years where like Joey Logano and younger kids were starting to get in full size race cars. And me being 32 years old now, I see young kids getting. I'm racing against 12-year-old kids in a modified or 14-year-old kids in a modified, and I think back, man, what this is wild. So, but I was one of those guys, and obviously Doug and I have had our fair share of battles and exchanged our fair share of Nerf bars, but it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed. My career has been so weird. If people actually follow that, it's been go to the highest division, take a step down and go weekly racing, win championships, go back up, win championships, win races. And it's just, it's been all over the place, but it's taught me to be aggressive. It's taught me to be very hands-on. I think, Doug, you've seen me from when I was that naive 15, 16-year-old kid to what I've turned into today. So it's
brat.
been a lot of fun.
I mean, I'm definitely want to talk about everybody's career at some point because, right, we've all had highs, we've had lows. It looked like it's going to be super promising, and then maybe it doesn't. And I think we're all lucky that we were able to race so long, no matter what, right? Like every other kid we race at the quarter midget track would probably kill to, have the careers or be able to race as long as everybody has. But racing's an expensive sport, and there's a lot of variances. Like, so I'm the youngest of the group. I ran quarter midgets till I was 13, and I got a micro sprint and ran the rookie class at Whip City. And then we had IGA Foods buy me a legend car, so we were gonna do double duty, like racing legends, racing micros. I ran Waterford 3 times, and we quit it. Like, I was bad at it. Like, I don't think we had the right stuff or the cheated up tires or something. And it just wasn't for us. So we went the dirt way, went to Whip City every week. And then we started going to Linda's Speedway on Fridays and going all the way back to Whip City on Saturdays. And then ran URC, which is a Wing 360 sprint car series that Erin maybe raced in at the time. And then we got to go to the All-Stars. But if it wasn't for JRC Transportation, I would have never been on the All-Star Tour. So that was kind of my first break on getting on the national level. And, now I'm here today. But Ryan, since you just talked and it's fresh in everybody's mind, I believe if it wasn't for Al Hankey, right, to put up the sponsorship for you to get in that Gibbs car and you perform and do awesome in that Gibbs car, you won a race, right, and a couple podiums or something like that?
Yeah, so there was 2 races. That was the year that I moved. There was a whole lot of things that happened, but so I moved home in 2017. I took over the car, all the obligations it took to maintain a modified team in Connecticut, and really it was Al Hankey, it was Kathy Moniz, which I drove for them at Thompson Speedway in the Sunoco modified division weekly, and then a few others that contributed to getting 2 races with JGR. And we finished second and we won. So that really was ultimately that kind of changed my life, right? I went from, Doug, I think you helped us buy our condo that we had in Broadbrook.
No, I helped you sell it.
You helped me sell it. Okay. Well, you helped me sell it. And that's really what changed my life, right? Those 2 races got me another opportunity at Kentucky where we were going to run second, and second wasn't good enough for me. And now Denny Hamlin's crew chief, Chris Gapehart, he asked me what I needed, and I said I needed to be looser, and that was not the thing I needed. I got too loose, and we finished 4th. So, but yeah, it's just going back to what you talked about earlier with racing. We're all very blessed to come from the families that we've had and the support, or just the opportunities that our parents really helped us get, or even just trying to teach us that if you want something, go after it. And from that point on, it was I blame Tommy Baldwin for a lot of this, because in 2013 he was the first one that kind of brought me into the Xfinity series and just going through the approval process, and that just created this itch of I want to win at this level and I want to do all these things, and from then on it's just been me chasing this dream of winning at the Cup level, and I'm pretty relentless, as Doug knows.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I didn't race with you much, but I know you're real strong-minded, but I feel like all good race car drivers are that way. That's just part of it. So Ryan, but right, you got to the highest of the high. You ran for a B-rated team in Xfinity, and then you kind of not gave up, but you kind of went back home, right? And then kind of refocused the race modifieds again. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't necessarily, like you said, it's not necessarily give up. It's just I wasn't happy just going out running 15th to 20th and being okay with it. I wanted to win races, and at the time, I was driving for a guy who owned modifieds and who was willing to hire me full time, and I could race for a living. So it's in the Northeast, the asphalt modifieds, the wheel modified tour is the toughest division. That's our world of outlaws. So I mean, to me, it wasn't necessarily taking a step back. This is something that most kids that watch modified tour type modifieds would dream of. So I was engaged to my wife. I was living in North Carolina in somebody's garage. It wasn't exactly a glorious life. So yeah, I took a step back and I moved north, and that ended up being one of my most successful seasons. We won the owners championship that year, and that's right, Doug. And I
Won
won
the
the
drivers
drivers.
championship. Yeah, won the drivers.
Well,
championship.
I missed 2 races, or it might have been 3 races that year. So
Okay.
it was one of my most successful years. I felt like as a race car driver and decorated, one that, to be honest with you, I'll never forget, because that was the year that the first time I ever went to the racetrack without my father. I prepared the car, loaded the trailer up, went with a few of my buddies, and I remember my father, before I went and did that, he wasn't too happy that I took a step back and moved back to Connecticut and did this. Well, when I went and won that, he told me he was proud of me and all that stuff. So it just created a different bond between him and I, and that just that really propelled everything to what it is today, and how I can be really hard nosed when it comes to some things in a race car.
For sure. So when you went back home and kicked ass in the modified, then is that when you got hooked up with like Kevin Harvick Incorporated, and then got you like hooked up with Ford, and then got you some truck races, and that all snowballed to kind of where you are today?
Yeah, it's just one thing after the next. For me, it's right place, right time. So Kevin ended up sponsoring Stafford Motor Speedway back in 2018, and I went up to him at Fontana and said thank you. And then a few weeks later, I went and I won Bristol, and he was the first one to shake my hand or fist bump me when I was pulling up to victory lane. And after that, it opened up a line of communication that I had never had before. And I said to him, hey, I need help. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what my next steps are. And he really has just guided me in the right direction and helped me, as a race car driver, and so much more. So that's really what opened up those. And to be honest with you, in 2021, when we did that truck race, it was we didn't know if we were going to be full time at JTG. Kevin said, hey, would you want to run these 2 truck races? Hunt Brothers and Morton are going to sponsor them. Well, we went out and won Nashville, which was absolutely wild, because I'd never run a truck before. It's not something that I grew up doing, but I've been lucky enough to work with special people like Aaron. Ray, he's special, and he's done so much. And working with a guy like Chris Gabehart, who to this day I've worked with him at the Snowball Derby, and just been around somebody like him. And even my crew chief now, Chad Johnston, who's from the dirt world. He owns Dirt Midgets, and he's another one that I see a lot in. So fast forwarding to this year and everything that we have going on, I know most drivers are going to sit here and say we got a lot we're looking forward to, but to be honest with you, there's a lot of things that I'm eager to get this season going and really hopefully prove a lot of, or really prove to myself more or less that the childhood dream is possible, and winning at the highest level.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool, man. And the state of NASCAR racing with this new car, I feel like it doesn't really matter what team you drive for today. At the cup level, I think you have a chance to win, and that's got to be the most exciting to be in that sport right now. I think it's really cool that the underdogs could win, and obviously you got a good team around you. You got some good teachers, and I'm sure Tony will be there to help you and stuff like that. And he's won plenty of races, and maybe he'll put you in a sprint car one day, and you could try a 410 wing sprint car.
I want to drive. So I actually tested a asphalt sprint car, and Bobby knows. Like, I think I talked to Bobby about this whenever I see him about how cool asphalt sprint cars and midgets and silver crowns are. But I actually tested Bobby Seymour's earlier this year at Stafford, and that's something I really want to do. If I have to build one, buy one and build one myself, I will. But that's a bucket list item for me, and but yeah, hopefully maybe Tony will go back into like the asphalt side, because I don't think I'd be very good at the dirt side.
Oh, come on. Alex Bowman could do okay, and he's not really a dirt guy.
Yeah.
Come on. I want to see Bobby get in a dirt car too.
No, you don't.
Uh,
I did a couple with, speaking of Chris Santucci, I did a dirt Silver Crown race with Chris out in Tucson, Arizona. That was actually my first Silver Crown start on dirt. And that was probably the absolute worst place he could have took me, because it was the Crown cars as it is belong on, half miles are too small for them. They really belong on miles. And we were going to Tucson, which I think was 3/8. I remember showing up on the practice night, and Levi and a bunch of them guys go out and practice, and I'm like, what am I getting myself into? Like, I should not be here. So waited a handful of rounds, finally went out. I think I knocked the front end out of it on practice night. Ended up going into race day, and thank God they had all 3 divisions there that day. So by the time the midgets ran, the sprint cars ran, then the champ cars finally ran, the track was slick and took rubber right on the bottom. And like, thank God. So I just ran around the bottom of the track, and I think I caught enough yellows, and I don't know, finished 8th or 9th on the lead lap. Got saved by enough yellows to get a decent finish in a Silver Crown race at that time. And then I did one on I did Springfield, and about the same thing. It took rubber on the bottom, and that helped me survive. So I don't know. Everyone tells me they turn into pavement, but I disagree. You're still pretty sideways.
yeah, I made my Silver Crown debut 2 years ago, and it was at Springfield. And
it's better than mine.
yeah, it was cool. I mean, the mile track's crazy how big it is, and I just remember the wind. Like, my head's getting blown around, because you're hauling ass and you got no wing to block the wind hitting your head. And like, it was definitely a crazy sensation, and we're wide open for qualifying, and it was a lot of fun. I like the longer races. I don't know. I feel like racing a sprint car, a lot of things that we were taught as kids, racing quarter midgets, being smooth, and arcing your corner. Like, there's people that make a living in sprint car racing that never arc their corner. They just throw death sliders every corner, and they could get away with it. So it's like, sometimes I have to revert to what I've were taught or learned at a young age to race this little bit different style, where the Silver Crown cars, you can be more patient, save your stuff till the end, kind of be more methodical. That's, I feel like, a type of racer I am. Sometimes maybe not, but that's kind of what I try to pride myself to be there at the end. But it's
real
cool.
Quick, going to what you're talking about, there's times where I get in different styles of race cars, and I think back to, man, those quarter midget days of talking about being smooth, that wide open, or even what you do in the World of Outlaw, where you don't lift and you're just used to hanging it out there, right? Well, then you come to what Doug and I and Bobby, when we race modifieds, where that is the furthest thing from what you're going to do. You are sawing at the wheel and you're on the brake hard or doing these things. It's so different.
Maybe you're sawing at the wheel. I'm not.
Well, that's because you only drive one-handed. Yeah. But
that is true.
Going into talking about driving these different styles of cars, it's amazing. Just from, and Bobby, you can relate to this because you race sprint cars and midgets on asphalt, and then you go into a modified or a stock car. Just the way they roll through the corner is so much different. How you need to adjust yourself to that in the driving style, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is a little different. You got to adjust everything a little different. But I mean, I'm gonna go with Doug on you got to slow your hands down on a modified on pavement for sure. Try not to saw on the wheel, but sometimes it definitely happens. And
Oof.
more so in a midget or a sprint car, but even those, you know, my dad always taught me when I was younger, your right rear is your best friend, and you know, the pavement, and I think that's what probably made me a decent pavement racer, but a not so good dirt racer, because I have drilled in my head you don't spin your tire, and obviously, you know, you got to keep the wheels rung up in a dirt car to keep them turning, and I struggle to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys probably race dirt and quarter midgets, but really dirt and quarter midgets was kind of like pavement. I mean, it was one lane, like rubbered up around the bottom, so you weren't able to learn stuff like that. But like I try to pride myself off like Donnie Schatz or Dale Blaney, guys that were good on the pedal. Like there's just a huge art to wing sprint car racing when it does get slick, because we still have 900 horsepower, way too much. When it gets slick, we probably need about 600, and like I think that's where it separates throttle control to no throttle control. Maybe if you're not a huge dirt guy, some stuff maybe you don't understand as well, but like for sure, we're probably quarter to half throttle 60, 70, 80% of the night in the A main. Like that's how much we're not even on the gas. And I know, Bobby, at IRP, you're not full throttle very long in a crown car or a sprint car. I know that. I know the midgets, that's a big track for that. But, you know, when you got 800, 900 horsepower, you can't use it every lap. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the sprint car, I'd say when they throw the green flag to start the feature, unless we're on a 3/4 mile or bigger, we're pedaling the whole race. You're never full throttle.
Yeah, I figured that, because they're like badass motors in those, right? Like SB2s and pretty powerful engines in those, right?
Yeah, some guys have SB2s. I mean, ours are all pro, but I mean, we got Speedway engines, so we're, you know, our engines are pretty stout. So I mean, you're pedaling in those cars. It's just lightweight race cars with a lot of horsepower. I mean, similar to, you know, basically similar to what you're doing, but on pavement. And
Yeah, for sure. So since we're talking to you, Bobby, you drive for Three Stooges Motorsports or Racing, the West family. I've been able to become really good friends with them in Indianapolis, Brownsburg area. Whenever I race for Roth Motorsports, we race out of their shop, and every time I'm there, I stay at their house. And the kids are definitely the Three Stooges, that's for sure. They're all characters. So Noah wanted me to ask you a question, or you know, bust your balls a little bit. But what's the favorite son? Who's the favorite son?
Noah's gonna ask that question, so of course he's probably the only one listening to this. So we gotta give it to Noah. Now Noah's awesome. He works. He's very passionate about those cars and his dad's business, and just everything there. It's really cool. You know what Jeff does, and then you know, between Noah, Evan, and Owen, they you know, they're very passionate and they love it. Noah, when he's working his way to being potentially a professional hockey player, and instead of you know, hanging out with his buddies and doing what college kids would do, he's coming home on the weekends and working on our midgets so he can race midgets, and he's there as much as he can be there. Very, very thankful hooking up with Jeff and running his midget the last couple of years. It's been great. I actually get to run Jeff's Super whenever the engine stays together. We've kind of had some troubles with that, but you know, Jeff and IPC and everyone over there is awesome. It's actually kind of cool. I saw your sister in there the other day.
Yeah, Victoria works there.
Yep, she was in there working away, and I distracted her for about 20 minutes and talked to her about you and your show and all that. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, she loves racing. She's in the community. Her boyfriend works for Justin Grant on the USAC sprint car team. They won the championship this past year. He's the only hired crew guy on the team, so he busted his ass all year, and he works really hard, and he's a good dude. Shout out to them. And yeah, Jeff's a good guy. If you guys are racing, you need carbon fiber products, we can make some modified molds if you want. We could get you whatever you need made up. Even a carbon steering wheel. I got a carbon steering wheel. It's lasted me since 2015. Same steering wheel. It's lasted.
You take that same wheel to every car?
Yep. If we're on the Chili Bowl, it's the same wheel. I never race with another wheel. So
I want to that, but I know Doug would come running over and rat me out if I put some carbon products in my modified.
Not me.
What's it, illegal?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys spend $150,000 on a modified, and you can't have carbon fiber?
Oh, hold on. I don't know who's spending 150 grand on a modified, but
With an engine, a complete car is not. It's less than that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would say half of that for a brand new car, right? Would you say that, Doug?
Yeah, I mean, prices have gone up quite a bit, but we just got a notification that certain spec engine package is going to be significantly higher than it was, and then obviously parts and chassis are up. So, I mean, you're probably talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 and 110 to 15 for a tour type modified with a NASCAR spec engine in it.
So, what's the spec engine nowadays? Is it what's the base of the engine, and is it a one-off kind of thing?
It's an LS2 block, right? And then it's all the parts that Yates got from who was the guy that started the spec program when they started.
Is it the Ilmore engine that they run in the trucks, Ryan?
No. It's its own. It's a whole bunch of different parts from different motors. But Doug, it's an LS based motor. But yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly, back in 2010, 2012, when the 18-degree head built engines were a thing, the prices for those were $50,000-$60,000 to build one, and when the spec engine came in, it was half the cost. So it certainly helped save owners quite a bit of money over the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years. And Doug can certainly talk about that and the cost savings of it all. So, but yeah, no, I don't know. I like the fact that I don't have to check valve springs and all that stuff with this motor. It's great.
Yeah, so they last a lot longer on rebuilds and stuff like that.
They're similar.
Similar.
I mean, if you're Doug, you take it out every 5 or 6 races, and freshen it and all this stuff. But
yeah.
I'll run it.
Look at who you're talking to here. You're trying to make it seem like I run a deal that I have fresh stuff every couple races or something. I mean, let's talk about my career, and I come from having nothing to getting with good teams, So I've earned my fresh stuff, pal.
You have. I'm just messing with you. Don't get like this, Doug. We have many years.
Was it this past year or the year before that Tommy Baldwin's car was unbeatable and he had a bunch of different people drive it?
This year.
Yeah, I was one of those people.
So what? It was just unreal, huh?
It was very stout, and my relationship with Tommy last year wasn't even expected. I was just going to be part-time with my own team on the tour and run 4 to 6 races or whatever, and that was all I was planning on doing. And the biggest thing for me was my crew chief Phil Moran, who I'd been with through Mike Smerglio Racing, and then my race team. He moved over to Ron Silk's team with Tyler Haight as owner. So I switched crew chiefs and had to move my cars out of the shop, and then they announced the new Smyrna race in February as our season opener, and it was just a mad scramble for me. So I just decided to go part-time and had the blessings of my sponsor, Mayhew Tools, and all my crew guys to just be part-time. And then lo and behold, a couple races into the season, Jimmy Blewett was scheduled to run a bunch of races for Tommy, and Jimmy's daughter got sick with a kind of a mystery illness. She was in the hospital and then went home and then back to the hospital, and they just couldn't quite figure it out. So Jimmy was scheduled to run Riverhead last May, and I want to say Tommy called me on Tuesday and said, "Hey, can you run the car for me at Riverhead Saturday?" And just got in the car, and the thing was a bullet, and we time trials got rained out, I believe. So we practiced. We practiced third, started third, got out in the lead, and kind of led the whole race and kind of walked away with the thing. So obviously, with that success, he asked me to drive the following week at Lee, and you guys know Lee USA Speedway is one of those tracks that it's like Myrtle Beach basically, with how bad it eats tires and how much you have to save that right rear. And you talk about you had said, David, how often you guys run, a quarter throttle or a third throttle. And, we have a handful of those tracks in the tour modifieds that we have to do that, Seekonk, Lee, Beach Ridge. These are all tracks that we're running, a third throttle for the whole race, and you're just feathering the gas pedal the whole time. And so anyhow, long story short, ended up winning at Lee 2 weeks in a row. So we kind of developed a pretty fun relationship there. And then Tommy ended up winning races on the tour with I won 3, and then Jimmy won at Wall, and Michael Christopher won his first race at Jennerstown. So 3 drivers, we won 5 races, and with the consistency between all 3 of us too, I mean, he kind of clobbered everybody in the Owners Championship, and the Owners Championship on the modified world is what pays the bills. That's where the check goes. So Tommy got the champion's check, and I got my half a championship back that I lost when smartass over there won the Owners Championship back in 2017. So I'm back to even now. So I don't have 5.5 championships as Brian and Justin always used to. But Justin Bonsignor, they used to bust my balls about not having full 6 championships, but I got it back this year. So it ended up this year, actually, you talked about our career paths. Like, this was a stereotypical season for me in racing, which was, you don't think you have much going on. And then you get a phone call, you drive for somebody that you're not even really friends with, or just an opportunity. And then all of a sudden it's an awesome season. And, back when I was in my 20s, I used to freak out if I didn't have something full time. And you know how we all get when you don't think you have what you want, or you don't have an opportunity because you don't have sponsorship, or things just don't come together. I'm done freaking out. I've been doing this way too long. So for me, if I even line up a season where I have 1 race scheduled or no races scheduled, I'm not going to freak out, because maybe something good will come from that season. And that's really the last handful of years for me. And then all the teams I've driven for have just been chance, coincidence, meetings, them needing a driver, me being available, and cool stuff happening. So that's kind of like if you had to paint a story of, like, I guess my career, that's some of my best memories are just from, not having much going on, and then cool shit happening. And that's like what I'm super proud of.
Like that SRX race that you got to run at Stafford.
I may have known somebody who helped me, down a path to get an invite into an SRX race. But listen, guys, so aside from how that came together from Ray, and I think I texted Aaron and Ray, privately when that was announced a bunch of times, to have that opportunity to be the first local all-star to go against these superstars in this new series. And Ray had all these crazy ideas for this race car that had never been on the track before, all sorts of reasons for that car to not turn left, 50% left side weight, 50% front to rear, 50% cross weight, like all things I would hate in a race car. And so I get the opportunity, and everybody I make the most of it, win the race at Stafford. But that led, Mike Beam was my celebrity crew chief. Mike Beam from GMS Racing was my celebrity crew chief that night. Literally picked my name on a wrench out of a hat. That's how Mike got paired up with me. And we went to battle against those guys. I wasn't his only driver that night. He had, I think, 3 drivers. Every crew chief had 3 drivers. But I was the fastest one. He knew I wanted to win really bad. And so he was rooting for me and helping me make some little changes to the car that Ray would allow. And, right in victory lane, basically, one of my friends said to Mike, hey, you should put him in one of your trucks. And Mike walked up to me and said, you know what, that's a good idea. I'm going to make that happen. And I'm 41 years old, or was I 42? 41 years old at the time. And then I turned 42, and I get my first truck ride at Bristol, of all places, in a GMS truck that had won the race the year before.
No pressure.
Yeah, and don't forget, it's during COVID, so no practice, no qualifying. So I'm Bobby said, like when Bobby, you went to that dirt race and you were like, I have no business being here. I'm like literally more than double the age of most of these guys I'm racing against. I could be their father. I've been racing since the 80s, and I'm getting I'm getting my first ride in a truck, and I don't even get to fire the damn thing up until it's time to strap in and drive down pit road. I don't get, there's no sim racing. There's no, hey, sorry, I got to drive an old like jalopy truck. They let me do pit stop practice over at Route. And
Yep.
I got to drive the truck that's over there with like the school bus steering wheel, and it's some old truck. And then my crew chief, Chad Walter, who's a really got a great history in racing and super great guy. He was dead serious about me running well in that race because, GMS was bringing 5 trucks to the truck series, and they kind of had their own little rivalries internally too. They want to perform and they want to do good. And, I'm happy I started 30th and got to 12th and was coming at the end and probably had a solid top 7 or 8 truck there. And just you talk about living a dream. When we get to your 40s, racing dreams are kind of over, right? Like there's things you want to do, bucket list items. Yeah. But like the dream is when you're a kid and you're that quarter midget kid, and then you're working hard in your 20s and, Ryan going down like that path to win in the Cup Series. Like that's not my dream anymore, but to have the opportunity that Mike Beam just single-handedly gave me, and in a sense, Ray single-handedly gave me by getting me in that SRX car. It's a big deal for me to be able, whenever my racing career ends, which is, I don't plan on it ending anytime soon, but, at some point I'm going to stop. And it's just nice to have a couple things checked off the list that I was able to do and kind of look back and say, all the bullshit I went through and all the years of no sponsorship and struggling to get into cars, and then people helping me out, just like every one of us has those handful of people that they believed in you and they, gave you sponsorship or put you in a car for really no reason whatsoever. They didn't have to. And then when you make the most of it, it's a really satisfying thing. And, one of the things that I think about is that we are so fortunate to be still racing from the 80s and 90s, and all these kids that we race with and all of our friends, from quarter midgets that go down a different path, they cheer for us literally every week, and they look for us. At the time, it was in the newspaper. Used to open Area Auto News and see who was racing where, and or trying to figure out where Bobby was doing good, or Erin or Michelle Theriol, and all these guys that have moved up. But now it's obviously social media, and those families, our families, we all cheer for each other, and people don't get it. Like Bobby, when you kick our ass at Loudon, I'm excited for you, and all of our quarter midget families are excited for you, and everyone's like, man, are you bummed? And I'm like, no, because I know Bobby's that damn good. And it kind of, there's other families out there that just are, I know they're really proud of all of us. And I think for all what we do, it's like it's awesome to think back to where it all started, and that it was just at that damn track playing soccer and fishing in the back in the river, and all the stuff we all used to do just as little kids and having fun. And the coolest thing is it's still going on today. I mean, those kids are doing the exact same things we were doing 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. It has not changed. The faces have changed, but I've been down there. I've down there a couple times in the last few years, and it's just so cool to see these kids building these relationships that, like, we can literally show them are going to last their whole lives, because that's just us,
Doug, so that's the one thing we do have in common. I got to make my truck series or NASCAR debut for GMS with Mike Beam, and I think you're right after me. Who was your crew chief when you ran the truck race?
Chad Walter on the 24.
Chad Walter. You did say that. I don't think it was a crew chief the year I was there. I had Charles Denicky was my crew chief, but also, Ray and Erin asked me to do the SRX deal the first year, but the blessing and the curse of the World of Outlaw Tour is you do not have any time for anything else. Like you're saying, you enter a season with not a full schedule. Well, my damn schedule's full to the capacity. And if I don't run the whole season, if I miss one race, I sacrifice on making roughly $50,000 to maybe $100,000 less by missing one World of Outlaw race.
No, hang on, man. So the modifieds raced that night at Oswego. I put Chase Dowling in my car for the tour race, and I went and raced SRX. So I skipped one of our tour championship races to go do that. Commitment, man, commitment.
So how did you fare in the points that year? Were you not in the championship chase, or did you?
I ended up fifth. I missed a race and ended up fifth, I believe.
So it still like counts, right? Like you still technically ran fifth and got paid like points fund money kind of
No,
thing?
because you got paid point fund for the owner championship. So that's why I was running a full-time season with my own team that year. And that's why I had Chase fill in for me, because he kept my team, the 10 team, up in owner points. And we finished, I think, third in owner points, but I finished fifth in driver points, missing the race for SRX that night.
So World of Outlaws is 50-50. If it's 100 to win the championship, it's 50 to the driver, 50 to the owner. So
we got to work on that, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we need to work on here. I'm sitting here and
taking note. We're taking notes for Jimmy Wilson right now, so that we're going back over there.
Yeah, I think it needs to change. That was something else I wanted to talk about, racing for a living as a modified driver. But yeah, that's how that World of Outlaws works. So if I miss one race, my team could still race and they could keep their owners' money, but I'm sacrificing every dollar. And also, you have to be a full-time World of Outlaw member to sell your T-shirts at the races. So when we're racing 85 times a year, we're selling a lot of money in T-shirts. So that's like, you can nearly make just as much money selling T-shirts as you do driving the race car. So at that point, you have to weigh, all right, the short term for the long term. You know what I mean? Like, I can make a good living what I'm doing now, but do you throw that away and have a good opportunity? You don't have to bring any money to it. Or do you try to go and do this? You know what I mean? So that was the crossroads for me. When my opportunity came, I won Knoxville Nationals with Exalta on the car, and Jeff Gordon was there and Mark Webber. And that was like the highlight of my career. And I met Jeff at Chili Bowl at the casino at a bar, and then it just stemmed from there. The stars aligned. I won Knoxville, and then Jeff was like, all right, I want to get you in a truck at Eldora. Well, COVID happened, and that was the absolute worst thing that happened for me. We were signed on to do 6 races. Since COVID came, it got reduced to 2 races. Eldora got canceled. The one race that I knew I had a shot at winning didn't even happen that year. So I had to go to Michigan, which I've never even seen in my life, just like you. Never ran a truck and raced against people. And they put me starting 12th. I started 12th in my first career truck race. Never did a lap around a track ever bigger than a half mile. And here you go. So I'm shitting bricks here. If I crash and wreck these series contenders right behind me, everybody's going to hate me. So I'm driving like a wussy, letting off real early, 4 wide around me. Everybody's just blowing by me. But it's like I can't crash on the first lap. Like, how embarrassing that's going to be. And, it was a great opportunity. But it was like, for Ryan, he had that great opportunity. And then maybe right after that, the best things didn't come. And that's kind of what happened to me as well. But I'm extremely lucky that dirt racing is extremely alive, very healthy. The streaming services have brought a lot of money to our sport. And, this year will be the richest year in dirt track racing history with, we got $1 million to win at Eldora. And then my car owner owns Houston Speedway. It's $250,000 to win at Houston. So like when I started racing, it was the Knoxville Nationals paid $125 and Eldora and Williams Grove paid $50. Now, Knoxville's $175, Eldora is $175, and Williams Grove is $75.
Ryan is thinking.
Doug knows exactly where I'm going.
Thinking the same exact thing right now, and Bobby's probably like, "Why the hell do we race asphalt modifieds when that's what you guys are racing for?"
I mean, I'm going to tell you this right now, and I say it. So Doug, Justin Bonsinger, I have a little group chat. And I keep saying that one day, if I can, I'm going to promote a race for modified racing, and it's going to pay really big. Because when I see, and I admire, Tony Stewart, and all these promoters in the dirt world for doing this. And there are some promoters, in our asphalt modified world that are really trying to keep growing the payouts for the modified racers. But when I see you guys racing for 100,000, 250,000, $1 million, you guys don't have any more grandstands, and we're packing places that we're doing. So, it's great to see the dirt world and kind of what the promoters and the track owners are doing there. And I hope one day, I know $1 million is far fetched and $250,000 is far fetched, but I want to see, in Stafford Motor Speedway, I believe the Sizzler this year is, if you led all the laps, you win the race, you win your prelim race, you can make 40 plus thousand. So that's a step in the right direction, but
it's huge. But Stafford's doing that on their own. Stafford is independently run now by the Arute family, and they're doing that because they're the leader basically in the asphalt side of things with weekly broadcasts on Flow Racing, which not a lot of asphalt. Well, nobody was doing it when they started it, and now a lot of people have gotten their programs on Flow and whatever. Racing America too. But Stafford, with the Sizzler this year, I mean, they're upping the purse, and it's a huge purse for modifieds. Anything over 10 grand, David, is huge for us. So, the Sizzler was 15 to win or 20 to win. The tour mod races pay roughly, if they got bonuses and stuff. So call it 13 to 15 to win. But man, the Sizzler with the lap money is a big deal, and the preliminary race, whatever they call them, the duels, that structure pays quite a bit. So I mean, if you do well, you can do pretty well at Stafford for the Sizzler, and that's why they had such a huge car count last year, and they're going through this year.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so sorry. Going back to what you were talking about and how you could make a living doing in the modified. So Bobby drove for Bob Garbarino, right? You raced for him. I raced for two different owners, which, we were hired race car drivers and Doug, he raced for Wayne Darling and Ed Bennett, and then Mike Smeriglio. These are all modified owners that would hire you to drive their race cars. I drove for Eric Sanderson and Eddie Partridge. So for us to make a living, I did it where I was just paid to drive the race car for Eric Sanderson. I got a percentage of the winnings. But at that time, I raced weekly at Stafford, Thompson, Riverhead. So I was racing at 3 different racetracks along with the touring series, bringing money in any way I could at that point. But to do it to where you could actually, when you get older and everything, you have to work on the cars. You have to, get a paycheck and then also race. So that's really the only way. You can't, I feel strongly about this, that today to try and just be a driver in a modified and make a living doing that, it's going to be extremely difficult. So, but that goes back to, another thing that I say in our group chat about selling merchandise and how you guys, the dirt world, does such a great job at promoting that. And I would really one day like to see the asphalt side get back to allowing teams and drivers to sell their merchandise in the grandstands independently and do that, because it's great for the fan experience, seeing the drivers out there, signing them, at their merchandise, but it also helps us, right? Like that's a huge, huge part of how we can help fund, pay our tire bills or, our fuel bills that night. So there's just there's a lot of things that I feel like, going back to what you said, Doug, that the Roots are definitely doing a great job and trying to help all that. But I hope it all really continues to happen soon.
So Erin could probably talk about this a little bit, but when I kind of chose to go the dirt way, I liked the racing and I thought it was more amusing to me for whatever reason, and it looked fun, and the money was okay. But did you guys expect to race a modified for a living? Like when the goal was to be obviously we all wanted to go to NASCAR at some point in our lives, right? That was all our dreams growing up. When the next goal was to be a wheel and modified tour guy, were you guys expecting like, all right, I'm going to be a tour guy and that's what I do for a living? Or did you guys go in the mindset, hey, I'm at the race every day of the week that I could, and or work a regular job? Like, what was, or you didn't know at the time until you actually did it? Like, how was that all mindset for that?
I mean, I'll just chime in. There's nobody racing an asphalt tour type modified for a living. I mean, maybe if you're younger, if your family owns the car, and you're very successful at a young age, you could probably kind of not work if you're working on your own stuff. But never once crossed my mind. It was never really an opportunity. I mean, I've gotten paid to race, percentage, like Ryan said, for, quite some time. But it's certainly not enough if you're any sort of adult with a mortgage and a life. And, you guys know from living in the Northeast, it's not the cheapest place to live with property taxes and vehicle taxes and all that stuff. And, I'd be shocked if there's any asphalt modified driver out there that's doing it for a living. Hit me up, give me a call, and let me know how you're doing it. I'm a full-time real estate broker. I flip houses for a living. I help people buy and sell houses. I listed Ryan's condo for him when he was packing up and moving down south for good. And, that's how I make my living. That wasn't what I did my whole real estate or racing career. I went to college in Virginia, and I used to fly home to go race at Stafford. I missed all the cool parties at the beginning of the year in August and September, and I never went on one spring break. I was always home working to try to make money, to have spending money and whatnot. And then I used to have to fly home right away, for the Sizzler and all that stuff. And I did that my entire college career. So my friends knew that about me, that I was always gone. So to get back to things though, like, yeah, our world is just not the same as maybe where you guys are. The most successful asphalt tour type modified drivers, you're looking at maybe 3 of the 5 or 6 of them right here on the screen. I mean, we're not doing this for a living and making a career out of it. I mean, we're just trying to get noticed and accomplish what we can. And it's a huge honor, of course, to be a part of the modified community. It's just not something that pays the bills like maybe you guys are used to on the dirt side.
Well, I just think that it's so secluded to kind of one part of the country, or, maybe gets to New Jersey a little bit, and then you have like New Smyrna. But obviously, sprint car racing or dirt racing is nationwide, right? There's no like restrictions. And it seems like if you run a micro, you run a midget. If you run a midget, you run a sprint car. And it just seems like, I guess, what does the rest of America race? I guess the late model is the biggest nationwide thing on pavement. And then you have the snowball race, which is probably the biggest short track event on asphalt. But I guess that's just a little bit of broken thing, just like super modifieds. They're probably the coolest automobiles to ever go around a circle track, but they're so secluded to like Oswego and what is it, like Indiana, Northern Indiana or Michigan or something like that, where they race them. And it's a shame because they're so cool. Northeast modifieds probably get a bad rap because they think they're like a UMP modified, like those ones they race on the West Coast that are junk. You know what I mean? But like the Northeast modified and a Northeast super modified are just badass cars. And I think a lot of people probably don't even know what the hell they are, and they've probably never seen them in real life either.
So exactly what you're talking about, because I'm around a lot of late model guys down here, and that's the greatest thing in the South is either a late model stock, a super late model, or a pro late model. And to be honest with you, and Bobby and I have had this discussion before about modified racing. It's probably some of the toughest racing that you'll ever do as a race car driver, just from how hard we race. It's an extreme, I would say, contact type of racing. We aren't scared to stick Nerf bars to each other, but going to what you're talking about, when people hear modified, they think of, the UMP or the Florida style modified, the skinny 8-inch tire, stock, front clip. Where we're from, the 15-inch wide tire, low to the ground, mean looking thing, that's what we're used to. And that's what, when people talk about modifieds, I'm like, yeah, that's a badass race car. So they're fun to drive, but it's even more fun, racing guys like Bobby and Doug and Justin Bonsignor and all the guys that we do up north.
For sure. Aaron, what made you go the dirt route? Like, did you see a better chance for you career-wise, or like, because you're kind of one of the first people to go dirt from where you're from?
I don't really think it was like I was looking at it as a career at that point. My brothers, like I said, we started racing Whip City, and then I started going to some of the sprint car races in upstate New York. And the first time I drove a sprint car, I loved it. Like I loved it. It's just so much fun to be sideways and just wide open, and it just suited me probably better than. I mean, I didn't have a ton of success in quarter midget racing. I'm sure Doug could tell you, but I wrecked a few people here and there, but and it was okay. But I just loved the sprint car the first time I sat in it. And when I got the opportunity to race with Mike and run Empire Super Sprints, and I won, I think 6 of the 30 races that year, it just kind of like, I just like found the thing that I really loved. So it kind of snowballed from there and got the opportunity to run the World of Outlaws. And to this day, I mean, I've been thankful and grateful to have the opportunity to race a NASCAR truck and a Xfinity car and ARCA a number of times. I've raced Baja. I've raced a bunch of different things, but I still would take a wing sprint car any day of the week. Like I just love the wing sprint cars. I think they are so fun to drive. I love watching them. I don't know if maybe I have ADD, but I love a 30, 40 lap feature. Like you put me in a 200 lapper, it takes me a lot to focus that whole time. So I just loved it. And to this day, I mean, David, I see you at the racetrack. I still am involved with Wing Nation. I still follow the Chili Bowl. I still follow pavement racing too, of course, but I don't know. It's just maybe a personal preference, but I just really love dirt racing. Maybe the opposite of Bobby.
I'm kind of right in the dirt world actually where I am, so it's kind of weird. I'm surrounded by mostly dirt racers with where my shop is and what I do. So a lot of these conversations you guys are just having, like I feel like I'm like right in between all that, where being in the Midwest, seeing how drivers get paid and make a living racing, and then I go to the Northeast and race modifieds, and it's like everyone's paying to drive, no one's getting paid. And then you go back to the Midwest and it's the total opposite, drivers get paid. It's just, I'm kind of in the wrong place with what I'm doing with the pavement racing, but it has grown around Indiana and it's gotten better the last couple of years with, what IRP's done. And, I think racing in general, short track racing in general, the last 3-4 years really has gained a lot of steam. And, I think the future is bright for short track racing.
I agree. Let's revert back to quarter midgets for a second. Who has won the Grands before, or how many? Who's? I'm probably not the leader in the Grands department. Who's won the most Grands out of all of us?
I got 2.
I have 2.
Doug's got a lot. What do you got, Doug?
I got 3.
3?
Yeah.
Ryan?
I got 1, but it was by default.
I was gonna say you got 1.
I already knew you were going to say it.
Wait, why by default? Let's hear this.
The kid got disqualified. The one who won, Travis Pennington. And it's amazing how none of us ever forget details like this that happened like 22, 24 years ago. But my
first one I won, I got DQ'd as well.
Oh, no way. Well,
yeah.
Going back, you mentioned Cameron Dotson. I finished second to him a lot. So
he won, 14, 15 of them, didn't he?
Yeah.
I know Joey M won like if it was over 20, but he had the record. Well, AJ Supan, do you guys remember AJ Supan at all?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I listen. So I snatched a win from AJ Supan in Light B at the 94 Grands at Silver City. On the last lap, I passed him coming off turn 2 and then drove away.
Wow, Tad chewed his ass then.
So Tad actually so this is my dad's favorite story in quarter midget racing, and our dads all have that the moments that they were really proud of. We had an option that year to run a different right rear tire. There was a hard compound and a soft compound. And obviously the softer compound, you were fast, but it would tear up and kind of fade away. And Tad opted for the soft compound. And my dad, forced me to race the hard compound. And, once you committed to what you time trialed on or whatever, I'm pretty sure they marked them or whatever. And you had to race them, I think. But anyhow, AJ had the soft compound tire on. The tire started to get chewed up and the race went green to checkers. So obviously that thing built some heat up and and kind of shredded apart, and I ran him down from like half a straightaway back or something and ended up beating him. So literally, I'll tell you guys this, like that's one of my that is my fondest moment ever driving a race car. And you can take whatever I've done as an adult, but there's just something about when you're a kid in a quarter midget and you just want it in a different way than you do as an adult, and you're not exposed to all of the things that we deal with from all the facets of racing that are just difficult as an adult. When it's a kid, it's just about that pure, you in the car and making it happen. And I don't know, it's just something that I think we all share that. And we have those moments where it was like, that was the moment that like hooked you and made you realize I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can, because if I could ever feel that again, I'm going to do it. And it usually happens in quarter midget stage, which is pretty neat that every one of us says that's the best time we ever had in racing. And I think it's true.
Sorry, David. I got to ask Doug real quick. Is that why you chose to sit on the 630 tire that entire 2017 season?
No, sir. No, that was my crew chief.
If you were like prepped for it.
That's a modified guy joke, it's hard tire, soft tire deal. But yeah. Anyhow,
one of those moments I had was at Syracuse in the B main light mods.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Yes. My dad was so excited I made the A. It was like a big moment. I mean, it wasn't winning the Grands, but I did put Doug in the weeds.
Yeah, so Syracuse, the track up there, first of all, I hated that track. I was terrible on it. And
it was huge and flat as hell, right?
And slick, right? And I'm going to tell you guys, so I've never driven a dirt car in my life, and I've been racing for 35 years. So I've never sat in a go-kart, a quarter midget, anything, a mini sprint, anything on dirt. And Erin maybe gave me my first and only dirt experience by, needing a transfer. I want to say that the top 5 transferred, and I think I was probably running 3rd or 4th or 5th. And by the time I got out of the grass, when Shag got by me, she gave me the old nerf into the no man's land, and I think I came out like 8th or 9th and didn't transfer. So, Erin was a great racer even when we were kids, and I think the thing that she was always most upset about was not winning the pretty car contest when her, perfectly prepared Pfizer car was brought out for pretty car. And I think we boycotted one. I think before the judging was over, we knew we weren't winning. So I think we actually wheeled your car off the track one of those.
We did.
Times. Yeah.
It was like so my dad wasn't ever big into like lettering the car or like having anything fancy. So to finally get this Pfizer car, I'm so excited about it. It's all lettered. My name is down the front of it. And yeah, I was like
pissed.
So mad.
She was pissed. It had nothing to do with racing either.
No, I mean, I never even could even enter the pretty car contest. It's the first time ever. I was like in heavy A at the time. I was like on the end of my career.
Heavy A. I never got to heavy. I was always
that's when I stopped racing.
Yeah, Bobby, did you ever run heavy?
I think one JSCA race when they let you put lead on the car because you had the total weight.
Because David, I was the same as you. I was light the whole time. I ran heavy. I ran heavy B my last year after the Grands, but all of my Grands races were in light A and light B. So.
My dad owned a body shop, so the thing we won every time was the pretty car contest. Like,
I'm so jealous.
We had a airbrush guy, so talented. We had the coolest looking cars always. We had a Fast and Furious Supra car one year. I had Pokemon on the car. I think novice year. I mean, we had all the cool stuff. But I mean, just to make the Grands that first time, right? Like that was such an accomplishment to make the A main in the Grands, and then you winning a ring for winning the Grands, and then the goal was always to do a donut in the grass, right? If you won, you wanted to get in that grass, or at least I did. And when you accomplish that, right? Like you said, when you're a kid, you don't care about the greed or whatever when you're older to have nice things or a house or a car. Like you just wanted to win that damn race, like play video games and play football. Like, right, that's all you cared about. It was racing and then playing with your friends. So to win a Grands, to experience that's like the first time tasting that adrenaline drug that you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, and you want more of that, and I think that's what fuels everybody, even if you don't get it, but getting close, right? Just it keeps that drive going.
It took me till my last year to get a Grands, and I definitely felt exactly what you just said, because we felt like we were close many times. And finally, my last year quarter midgets, we won light A and light B, which was in Jersey. It was pretty cool at Wall.
Yeah, it took me to my second to last year. I think it was '04 I won, and then '05 was my last year. And I was able to win light B on the Eastern Grands at Thompson. And then we went to the Western Grands in Sacramento. I won there. And I had a chance to do the sweep at the Dirt Grands at Hagerstown, and I didn't do it. So that was a bummer. But it was a dream year. But Doug, AJ Supan lived at my house for about 5 to 6 years in my teenage years. Brandon Artabani was his good friend at the time, really good quarter midget racer. Those two guys were my mentors growing up. So ever since I was 9, 10 years old, I would run light 160, light mod, light B, and those were the guys teaching me at the track every week. And when we went to the micro scene, Brandon had a micro. I raced with Brandon for 3-4 years, and we raced side by side. Played the World of Outlaw 2002 video game from Waterbury, Connecticut to Jonestown, PA every Friday, leaving high school early. And that's what we did. So I had great mentors to look after. And AJ and Matt, that family, they were very gifted as drivers. And it was definitely a lot of fun. Definitely those were the good times.
For sure. Yeah. And actually, while you were hanging out with Brandon, his dad, Randy, was sponsoring me and my late model at Stafford as a 16, 17-year-old, so I had Ramco on my car and my quarter panel there. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Small world. That's really cool.
It
So,
is.
a little bit why we're here. Johnny Morgillo has started this Region 1 QMA driver development program. And, and I think this is his third year now. He's injected 100 new drivers and cars into Silver City. When I was racing Silver City, it was pretty successful and healthy when we were there. I think it was probably at the peak. Maybe I wasn't there when you guys were there, but I mean, we had a lot of good guys. Ryan was there for about a year or so, but we had a lot of good people there, weekly basis, and things were striving really good. And I know the last 10 years have been really, really bad for Silver City. I think they got down to 50 or 60 cars per week. And, now they average over 100, no problem. It's really cool to see because obviously you don't want that thing to go away. With our world we live in 2023, there's so many other things they could do that we couldn't as kids. I mean, kids are playing Fortnite for a living and making millions of dollars at 15 years old. You know what I mean? Like the world is just different where we live in today. But, Johnny has that deep drive, love, connection with quarter midget racing like we all have, but we've kind of moved on to a different form of racing where Johnny didn't really get to experience that much more racing after that. And for him to dedicate nearly at least half of his life right now to helping kids that can't afford to race, it is pretty cool. And I'm glad his hard work is paying off.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see it. I wouldn't have gone back if it wasn't for his involvement. And I bought one of those Phase 1 cars for $500, an old fast track. I think it's a 93 or 94 fast track. I thought it might have been one of my old cars, or Bobby, one of your old cars. I don't think it was, but the program's awesome. And if anybody's around, locally, any alumni or you guys, I definitely encourage you to go down there and check it out. And it's just phenomenal, and meeting these kids, and they just look up to us all so much. Ryan and myself and Joey got to go to the opening ceremony at the Eastern Grands last year. That was at Silver City for the first time since I think 2008. And those kids they're getting that bug, and you can see it. They've got the itch, and they just want to be successful, and they're working on their cars. And that's one of the things that I know Johnny's making a lot of those kids do, is go to the race shop and learn to take the car apart and clean things and help put cars together for other kids too. And that's it's just teaching them so much, just things they'll never get elsewhere. So it's pretty cool I got just a small part in it, but just really cool to see it happening.
That was
I just think
definitely. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say, I think it's so cool to give kids opportunities like that. You know, we all know that our sport is expensive no matter what, whether you're racing World of Outlaws or you're racing a outlaw cart or a quarter midget, it's expensive. So to be able to give opportunity like Johnny's doing is so important. And when we look at this conversation we're having here tonight, it's like those friendships we started when we were really little. Like, and when I look at my Facebook page, yeah, I've got friends from all walks of life, but there's a large percentage of them that are quarter midget friends that you still keep in contact with, whether they're in California or they're in Ohio or Florida. And I just think it's, you know, it's such a huge part of our childhood, and to give that to someone else is so important.
Yeah, I mean, Erin just totally stole what I was gonna say. I mean, I feel the same. I mean, my best friends, I feel like, and truly genuine people, like even what Doug said earlier, when they're successful, I guess we're all kind of tied together and have that bond from quarter midgets, and we truly do want to see each other be successful. And just some of my best friends that I still talk to are from quarter midgets.
You got anything to say, Ryan?
I mean, I just went after all three. You know, they already hit everything. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, obviously, Doug touched on it, and so did Erin about Johnny and what he's done. I think that itch kind of grew when he saw his niece and nephew kind of getting to that age where we were when we started to get into quarter midgets, and I think that triggered something, and he saw what Silver City had kind of fell off to from what we all were when we would go there. So it was great to see him create an avenue for families to, dip their toes in the water instead of going out and, buying all this equipment to find out 6 months later that their kid may or may not like that sport. So it's certainly helped a lot. And I hope it continues to grow because we need more racers. We need more kids getting out, getting out from behind a TV screen or a computer screen or any type of screen and going to the racetrack and tackling kids in the center or, just getting in trouble like that. That's the part of being a kid. So, I think that's a step in the right direction. Yeah, I mean, I don't want my kid one day sitting playing Fortnite. I want him, begging me to go to the racetrack.
And the most important part, all the best drivers in the country are all quarter midget drivers. That's the obvious answer right there on why you should do it.
Yeah. Well, I think a quarter midget racer is for sure smoother and I would say more calculated or smarter racer. Like what I deal with in the dirt world, it's either kind of outlaw carts we started or quarter midgets. And the outlaw cart kids are extremely aggressive. They attack the track for sure. And what we would say, maybe not out of control, but like, Kyle Larson has perfected the out of control without crashing very often. Now he might do it a few times, but the amount of times that he actually does crash is not very often because he's just unreal. But I agree. I think quarter midgets treat you or teach you a lot of good things, but then you guys race these damn modifieds and you're wrecking each other and spinning everybody out. If we had judges, you guys would be going to the tail a lot, but I know that's the only way to get around people.
Doug, I still have that picture.
Shut up. Nobody cares about the damn picture on your wall to your right over there.
It is to my right. Yeah.
Was that Loudon?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. Which, in all honesty, Doug just wanted to wreck me to win the championship, and that's what happened. But it had something to do with coil binding was just becoming a thing, and it went underneath the rear bumper, and he didn't mean to jack me up, but it happened.
Why are we talking about this? We're supposed to be talking about quarter midgets.
I know. Why are we talking about that?
Yeah, that's funny. So we got our first question in. We'll turn it over to Erin. It's a good one. And I don't think any of us have the answers, but maybe Erin and I could shed some light on it. Bruce says, how can New England dirt modifieds make a living, I'm guessing, but not the paved? So big block modifieds are kind of just Northeast racing. They have Grandview in Pennsylvania that races there, and now they're going to Port Royal Speedway, and they have a big event there. But typically big block modifieds are just in upstate New York. They come down to Lebanon Valley. Obviously, they race there weekly, but guys like Stuart Friesen and what's the other dude that's really good that wins all the time?
Matt Shepard.
Matt Shepard. Yep. Those guys, I would say, do it for a living, to my understanding. Obviously, Stewart is with a great owner who's got his own truck team and races big blocks as well. But you could probably make, if you're Matt Shepard, you're making six figures easy as a big block modified racer. And that's probably only the top 2 or 3 every year probably can make over 100,000 or something like that. But to me, that's pretty impressive for a big block modified that is secluded to that area. So in my opinion, I think that modifieds in Connecticut or asphalt modified have the opportunity for that to happen. It's good to see that Flow Racing is now involved with Stafford and stuff like that. I think the biggest advantage, Ryan, if you ever want to promote a race, you have to take advantage of the streaming services, because that's where the influx of money in our sport is happening. And obviously the promoter is not going to put up 100,000 if they're just going to lose it. So I feel like, maybe there needs to be some cross love here between dirt and asphalt, and some conversations need to be had, and things need to happen. Like, I think that there's no reason why the modified tour can't be the level of, say, like on the dirt side, the All-Stars. I think the All-Stars, they promote a couple guys race for a living, but it's still a journeyman's sport still. You could still work a normal job kind of and race the All-Stars, but everybody, it's a rich man's sport. A lot of guys that race or own the cars and the modifieds typically are fairly wealthy. So you're always going to have those guys that race, and then you're going to have the lower income or buck guys race. But I think there's a true opportunity for it to happen, but it might take a little while, but in the right hands and the right vision, I think it could definitely happen.
Yeah. So I drove for the guy I was speaking on, Eddie Partridge. He owned Riverhead Raceway, and we had conversations about before he went to the Flow streaming service, and he was talking about, going into this, and this was before it even became a thing for him. We had talked about one day trying to promote like it was a pipe dream. It was really me just putting the bug in his ear, but like doing a big race and getting guys like Matt Hirschman or, Doug, who really didn't like Riverhead Raceway at the time. And it seems like he's grown to like it over the years, or Bobby Santos, just being a big paying race. And
Bobby loves Riverhead, don't you, Bobby?
Bobby does love Riverhead.
One of my favorites.
Yep. But, it goes back to one day I will figure a way out to do a big modified race and have it be huge. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, the streaming services has certainly changed the game.
I think going back to that man's question, I feel like, I haven't really been around the big block modifieds in the Northeast in probably 10 years, but I feel like they did really a small niche, but they also did a really good job of keeping the costs down, where I feel like, again, I'm speaking kind of out of my realm because I haven't been around all of it. But even years ago, I felt like the pavement modifieds, whether it was tires and whatever, the costs seemed pretty stout. So, hopefully that obviously can change. Like you talked about, getting more promotion and doing some streaming. But I feel like that little big block modified thing has always been a small niche where there's been 5 or 6 guys that have always been just driving for a living, whether it was Brett Hearn or Alan Johnson or, McCready. There's always been like a group of them in New York that have been able to do it. And they race multiple nights a week too. They're racing, 4 or 5 nights a week at different tracks in upstate New York.
Well, I think that motor deal that you guys are talking about, the spec engine, is definitely, because I thought growing up that a tour modified engine was 50,000 or whatever, and sprint car engines are crazy now. A new sprint car engine is like 65,000. But it sounds like that motor deal, they probably had no other choice but to do that motor deal, I'm guessing, or it'd probably be extinct, no?
Well, and Doug and I we have similar opinions on this, but,
You could say it.
Well, no, I'm always exploring for a cheaper option in motors, because I feel like myself, when I build a race car, something that I feel like I have the most control over losing that money is if I wreck that race car. I don't want to show up 2 races into a season and have a motor blow up and I'm out $40,000, or whatever that may be. To me, it's a tough pill to swallow. So there is certainly different options out there, not necessarily for the wheel modified tour, but I do have an engine that I run in my open type modified that I built. We bought it for $14,000. You can purchase it new for, I believe, 20, carb to pan, and it's a great alternative and it makes good power. But there's just so many different options at this point. But to Erin's point, racing's not cheap. I mean, we go through so many tires on asphalt compared to you guys. I mean, we're going through 3 or 4 sets for one race. And a lot of it's, I feel like the tire shortage certainly helped the open show side of things, where I was going to races and only buying 5 instead of 16. That made a huge difference when it came to the tire bill. So, but yeah, the motor side of things, there's so many different combinations out there. I wish there was just a chassis dyno that would show up at the end of the night. Here's your horsepower number. You can't make over 750 horsepower. Have at it. If you want to make it with cubic inch, you want to make it with a big carburetor, whatever you want to do, you go ahead. But I mean, we can make this inexpensive, and there's a lot of ways we can certainly do that.
All right, so we got some questions. This one's for Ryan. So if anybody hasn't, send them in. But Ryan, hello. I really admire you. Think you will be great. Can you talk about what it's like to bet on yourself the way you have, just knowing in your heart you belong in NASCAR?
Well, to be honest with you, when Doug was talking about going into the end of the year and not really knowing what he had going on the next year, that's pretty, I mean, it's different because I depend on racing a race car for my living, but I'm used to not knowing what I'm going to do until November, December. I mean, that's just the way it is up there in the Northeast. You really don't know what you're doing until basically the next season. So, but yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to make things happen. That's really what I've had to do for the most part. The most of my, in anything when it came to modifieds or, Xfinity or whatever, it's when you feel like there's no other way, you have to make a way. And that's just really ultimately what it's come down to. And last year, speaking on, I could have went truck racing full time. I could have went Xfinity racing full time. But I saw this opportunity, and it wasn't going to be easy, but it just seemed like every week I'd go into the marketing department at SHR and say, okay, where are we at? What do we need to do? Okay, who do I need to call? All right, I need to, it was just one hurdle after the other. And ultimately, it paid off, but it's certainly not easy and it's not always going to work out. But at the end of the day, I want to win at the top level of NASCAR. And I'm lucky enough that obviously I'm wearing a United Rentals hat, but I have a lot of supporters, a lot of people that believe in me, and at this point, we're gonna go out to LA in less than 10 days. I mean, it's wild that the race season's already here, and Doug's having to shovel snow, up in the Northeast, and it's just
wow.
I meant that in a nice way. I didn't mean it like that. I meant it because it's seasons here.
Okay, it's okay. I can take it. Might not necessarily be shoveling snow in 10 days, so we'll be good.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, that's cool. I mean, Ryan, I wish you the best. I hope everything goes great. I mean, it's a great opportunity, and that's what you work for. And you got a full season. You don't have just 2 races to run good. You got a full season to figure it out, and, I know you will.
Yeah, no, I just want to clarify. I didn't mean that in a mean way. I meant it in a way because I have a lot of respect for Doug. We've had it's crazy. Every time that I get in a room with guys like Bobby and Doug, Doug and I have gone back and forth, winning races and pushing each other since 2012, was it? I feel like you and I have been going back and forth winning races. championship.
That's the first year I beat you for a championship, right? 2012. Yeah.
It was.
So yeah, that year.
So, but you and I, we've been, going tit for tat, and it's been, a lot of fun. And
and then we get shown up by Matt Hirschman the whole time. So now we're crap. I mean, we think we're going back and forth for wins, and Bobby's going back and forth with us at Loudon for wins, and Matt's the king of asphalt modifieds right now.
Yeah.
That'll happen. Yeah, keep you on your toes. If it's easy, it isn't that much fun.
True.
All right. Danielle Wasco says, how is the Silver City 6 involved in the driver developmental program at Silver City? Well, I can tell you what, Johnny blows me up about every day. I don't know how much he blows you guys up, but when it first started, I located 2 cars that a sponsor had at one point and got them some equipment. And I got them 2 bull riders because I'm partial to bull riders, but I got them 2 cars, and I know I sponsored a trophy race or something like that for once. And Johnny's trying to get me to hop on the sponsorship program this year. Not sure if it's going to happen or not, but for me, I felt like it was a disappointment that I wasn't able to go to the Grands where Joey Logano could go, Ryan Preece could go, Doug Coby could go, but literally when it's race season, I don't have one damn weekend off. So if you ask me to do something on a Friday or Saturday, I'm gone. I can't miss the race. So I wish I was there for that event because it was probably special and cool, and to see it repaved and everything was probably a cool moment. But that's how I'm involved. I'll definitely help a little bit here and there over the years and definitely do what I could do. But yeah, Johnny's adamant. He works really hard for this deal. That's for sure.
Yeah, Johnny's doing awesome with it. He invited me to the Grands last year too, but unfortunately I'm out in Indy, so it was hard for me to get back and make that also racing out here. But same thing, Johnny definitely reaches out and is definitely not shy to get everybody involved and ask for help with this, which is what really we need.
He's ruthless. Go ahead, Bobby. Say he's ruthless.
He has been. Which
relentless.
I told him I'm not quite in the same league as some of the other guys that are helping, but I give him a little bit to try to help a little bit.
That's cool. Well, CJ Sherman, if you guys remember him, he said, what was your favorite or least favorite quarter midget track? If it wasn't Oak Lane, you haven't lived.
100%.
I loved Oak Lane. I ran my first light A race there, and I was way too young because my head was hanging out the right side. I couldn't even hang on to that thing. And I won the trophy race or whatever, but I don't know how. But Oak Lane was fun, but I liked Wall because Wall was a unique shaped track, long straightaways and like kind of tight turns. I enjoyed Wall a lot.
God, I don't remember hating as a kid. You just felt lucky you're going racing. I don't remember ever hating the quarter midget track like I do with some big race tracks. I can definitely name a bunch of those that I don't like, but I can't name a bad quarter midget track.
Yeah, we didn't care.
Yeah. No. Oak Lane's still the best. I'm sorry. And honestly, too, one of the coolest things about Oak Lane were just the people down there, the Region 2 families and the Region 1 families. We all just got along so well all the time. They were always very welcoming. And I mean, you talk about Facebook friends. I mean, not only am I friends with those people on Facebook, the drivers, but I'm friends with their parents on Facebook too. So,
me too.
That's a shout out to you, Chris Gancars and Marianne Giannini and all these people, But I love all these Oak Lane families. It was just super fun to go down there and race with them. They were always great. And then, they'd come back up to our way too. So
the old pumpkin races.
Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was the best. So Low Bin Motorsports, I mean, I don't know if we can answer this right because we were so young. We didn't really, make the cars go fast. But how could you enhance our results at Silver City? Motors, gears, and what is a good setup or a good step past quarter midget racing? Thank you for your time. I'm going to say what I've learned in sprint car racing. It's called motorsports for a reason. If you got a badass motor, I think it makes everything a lot easier. As far as setup, I don't know what to tell you. I think you got to have a good shock program nowadays, not like those old school. I don't even know what kind of shocks Erin or Doug had back in the day, but I had gas ARSs.
Clickers and torsion bars, man. Clickers and torsion bars.
Yeah. That's crazy. Those things must have handled so bad back then.
Listen, man, I hate to remind everybody, but I set the track record at the 94 Grands in Light A. It was a 575, and there weren't a whole lot of you guys going a whole lot faster than mid 5.7s in Light A. I know it got faster, tires changed over the time, and obviously now these kids are fast now. There, I mean, some of the Honda classes are like 5.9s and 5.8s just because of the track pave and how they get around there. But there was a really long time that. I think CJ, Sherman had that half record in the 5.60s, right? Like that was the fastest car I think ever on the track, on the watch, of course. But
yeah,
you would remember quarter midget times from that long ago, huh, Doug?
Well, so listen, I happened when we were going through all this alumni stuff. I have a lot of like records and like the old programs and stuff, and I was a part of uploading half of all those races to YouTube that are up there now, like including your Wall Grands wins and all that stuff. I helped with that project when COVID was going on. We were uploading videos all the time, so it's just really cool to it brings back the memory like it was yesterday. So yes, I know lap times from 35 years ago or 30 years ago. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
proud of that too.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, guys, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I appreciate you guys for coming on. Real quick, we're just going to put up the QR codes if you want to donate to the Region 1 Driver Developmental Program. You could snapshot those. You could watch the video later, pause it, take a picture, screenshot, whatever you got to do. Any help is appreciated to help underprivileged kids get into racing. It's a real affordable way. I got to thank Ryan, Erin, Doug, Bobby. Again, thanks for spending about 2 hours with me. It's appreciated. I don't get to see you guys enough. Doug, I've never really seen you before, maybe once or twice, and you didn't even know it. But Bobby, I see probably the most often. Erin doesn't come to the races as much, I feel like, as she used to. She's got horses going on. But
True story.
Yeah. I appreciate it very much. And tell your husband that SRXs are on Thursdays now, so I'm available for an XRX. So if my invitation is still available, let me know. I'm willing to do it this year. I know the Hawk. The Hawk's a friend of mine on Twitter, so I might DM the Hawk. Maybe he'll get me in.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to go. We're not super involved anymore, so you better go with the Hawk.
You got to hit up. You could also hit up Ashley. I mean, Ashley kind of runs the show over there, so that's
there's that
option.
too. Yeah. He's good people.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Have a good night. We'll be watching the Clash, Ryan.
Thanks.
Yes, good luck.
I'll be shoveling snow while you're out there. So,
yeah.
So bad. Okay. Well, hey, David, thanks for doing this. Thanks for having us all on. And good luck to each and every one of you guys this year. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Have fun. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, buddy.
See ya. All right, guys. So that was the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I know a lot of my fans are dirt guys, but I feel like it's important to show the history and the talent that has come from racing from the Northeast. Trying to grow the channel as well to get new people watching, and trying to do a good deed here and promoting the quarter midget track and everything that Johnny Morgillo is doing, and trying to revitalize the youth of racing in general to keep that sport going. I feel like it's so much harder for families to afford to race nowadays, and then your kid to focus on it, or the kid to want to race. It's a scary thing to do, and it's really cool that they're revitalizing that for sure. I gotta wish a happy birthday to my grandfather and Mr. Riley that we called Pops. He was a big vital part to my racing. And what else we got? I got to thank Moose's LZ Bar and Grill for sponsoring me, Marlowes Metal Fabrication, Lake Home Retreats in Wisconsin. Hopefully when I race up in Wisconsin this year, I'll be staying at one of their places and hang out in the hot tub. Thank you guys for everything. Thursday, we got a big one. We got Swindell Speed Lab crew. We got Kevin Swindell, Logan Seavey, and the owner, Tim Bertrand. Obviously, their first event together, and they won the Chili Bowl Nationals. So tell your friends about that. We'll come back here Thursday at 8 p.m. Hopefully have a big show and have some fun. Please give this video a thumbs up if you're watching now or watching later. Get out of the chat. Give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. Check out shopdgr.com. I'm going to spend some time with Levi and the wife, and we'll see you guys Thursday. Appreciate you. See you later. Peace out.
From Watertown, Connecticut, David Gravel.